This last week, I had my first ever full feature that I produced release. It's a full hour long epic tale of sin and lust. The sexy innocent bride who is played by the wonderful Summer Cole prays for a life that isn't boring missionary style sex, and then suddenly I appear and I'm the devil, of course, and I proceed to tie her up and beat her and fuck her ass and do all kinds of filthy things to her for a full hour of trials to help her become the Satan's whore. And
Cool.
it's a really fun, really sexy, blasphemous, kinky, kind of fucked up story with some really hot BDSM, and we both had a really great time producing it. Super proud of that.
Sounds super amazing. Where can people find it?
So that's going to be on all of my clip sites, my fan sites, and streaming on Adult Empire at my new studio there.
Producing and directing, is that something you want to do for a while, or is that something just
I
came
mean,
out?
I mean, I have produced over 5,000 clips in my time. So, things between 2 and 10 minutes long, sometimes 20 minutes long. But I started to feel like I want to put things out there that are at the level that I want to be in. Until recently, for most of my career, I was an independent model. I had no manager, no help getting scenes on larger production sets. So I started making my own productions larger and larger. And then this last month, I also signed with Cox Models. So now you're going to get to start to see me in a lot of other really awesome productions.
You mentioned the stuff you produced. Were those basically content, sex scenes type of stuff, and
Yeah,
this one was
content,
more story
kink,
driven?
fetish, and sex content, mostly BDSM, femdom focused. So when I was 20 years old, I was looking for a way to make money in sex work that felt true to me, and I found femdom. And I launched a Clips for Sale store in 2009, and I hit the ground running. For years, I would release one or more videos a day for years on end. So that's how I got to that large number. And there's anything from, foot fetish teasers to sissy hypno and JOI, you name it, all kinds, but predominantly solo videos just of me and my camera at home. And I've always put an eye into the level of my production from the get-go. For the first several years I did this. I used all of my money to reinvest back into my operation, get better cameras, better lights, learn how to do makeup better, like learn how to do
Right.
everything better. And I've mostly done it all by myself. It's my passion project.
20 questions there, but do you have a background in production or anything, or is this just stuff you've learned as you
No,
went
it's just
along?
something that I discovered, and I mean, I started when I was 20 years old, so I learned as I went.
And when you started shooting at 20, was that stuff you wanted to shoot or stuff you thought would sell?
It's stuff that I wanted to shoot and that I discovered would sell. So, when I was 20, I was looking for a way to make money in sex work that was sustainable, and felt true to me. Because I tried other kinds of stuff. I tried working at a club. I tried a few different types of porn, and none of it felt me. But I'm a very dominant A-type personality. I'm very controlling. In my personal sex life, I'm a top, I'm a dom. My wife is my collared submissive. So, that's true to who I am. So it really clicked with me, and I discovered I'm really good at this. And I spent a lot of time camming. I don't do that as much now because I produce, and that takes up so much of my time and energy. I just focus more on that than the camming. But for years, I also did, night flirt and um, Skype sessions back when there was still a Skype.
Right.
And yeah, I have a huge fan base of people who are into my stuff from the femdom world, because that's what I've done for years and still continue to do.
When you first started shooting and stuff, had you saw some material and you thought to yourself that I could do this better, or this would look cool if I did it this way?
I've told this story a few times now, and I always think it's really amusing. I was on Craigslist, like the bands, Close Encounters kind
Right.
of thing. And there was an ad where a woman was advertising, "Hey, I'm looking for somebody to come over to my house. I'll pay you $50 an hour for like 2 or 3 hours. and you're going to be video recorded, fully clothed, and you're going to spit in a cup with me and a couple other girls. And I'm like, what the fuck is this? This sounds weird and awesome. Let me go over there. So I emailed them and I showed up, and one of the women who placed the ad was really big in the femdom world at that time, and yeah, the three of us, or four, there was four of us, shot a video while somebody was watching live on webcam as we spit in a cup, and the verbiage of what we were saying in it is like, you're going to use all of our spit to jerk off, aren't you, loser? And like calling this guy a loser and making fun of his penis and telling him all these mean, humiliating ways to jerk off. And I was like, oh, you can make money being mean to men? Where do I sign up? So they told me about Night Flirt, and they told me about clips for sale. And I went home that night and I signed up, and I turned my Night Flirt lines on, and I didn't turn my Night Flirt lines off for 3 years. Not kidding. I didn't sleep I slept with them on. I ate with them on. When I was out of the house, I'm taking calls like, sorry, hang on, I'll be right back. I have to go tell this loser to jerk off. And I did femdom, phone stuff, and webcam for years. I have a really highly ranked profile on Night Flirt, even though I don't use it as much these days.
And was there one particular part of that, whether it be the webcamming, the flirting, anything that you enjoyed more than another?
That's changed over the years. You know, I really, really loved the one-on-one, just the mystery of like what person's going to call me next, and how can I use my skills as getting into people's heads to catch what their fetish is, figure that out, pull that out of them, because when somebody calls you up, they're not going to divulge everything they're into right away. You're going to have to tickle that out of them in one way or the other, figure out, do they like mean, do they like nice? What is going to make them do what I want, which is spend money, the most? And how can I manipulate this person into doing that the best? And over time, that developed into not just wanting to control people spending money on me, but to control them just being obsessed with me, whether they had money or not, just making men, women, people in between completely obsessed with me. And that's been my, I think is one of the things that I really focused on for many years and made my priority. But now I'm camming less. I'm taking fewer phone calls because I like reliability. When I talk to a sub, I want to know that they know my protocols. They know what I like already. They've done a little research on me. I've been doing this long enough that I'm not really as interested in just talking to somebody while he's jerking off randomly. I want some intention. I want to do something more fucked up, really more fun, get into some more wild kinks than just jerk off instructions. If you want to jerk off to me, I have thousands of videos where I tell you to do that. Just go watch one of those. And these days, my interest is really in sex and porn production, BDSM production. I enjoy pleasure, so I want to have more pleasure, and it's way more pleasurable to fuck on camera or do hardcore BDSM on camera than to just talk to the camera POV style, me alone in a room with just a camera. So I'm doing less of that these days.
It's an amazing concept, but when you're telling people to jerk off and stuff, is the idea for you to get them off, or is it like you're in a strip club and you're getting a lap dance and you want to keep the guy going and going and going and going?
I mean, it depends on the person. You know, I mean, obviously there is a sense of like, if you're on the phone or if you're doing live stuff on the internet, it's a little bit like a club. You're trying to extend their time. Or if they've prepaid for a certain number of time, like let's say somebody like paid for a 30-minute session. Well, if you've come before then and you hang up, that's on you, bro. You don't get your money back. You paid for 30 minutes. If you walk out if you buy a ticket to a movie, you walk out early. You don't get to come back and finish that movie later. If you buy a meal and you don't finish it, and you walk out of the restaurant, you don't get to come back and have them serve you half a meal later. But if somebody's calling a per minute line, like a Night Flirt, well, now let's get you a little drunk. Let's do some poppers. Let's edge you. Let's get into some random discussion about the world and try to extend it out. Yeah. Yeah.
In that situation, when you're meeting a new person for the first time, do you try to approach more about personality or by looks? Like if I was going to be a new person with you, would you somehow figure out that I liked your body and maybe show me a boob or something to get my attention right away? Or would you say something or do something or?
I would figure out what you're into, like, okay, you're tit motivated, let's say. Well, then I'm going to make you earn those tits. I'm going to make you work for it. I'm going to tease every little inch of cleavage out of you, and then under boob, and then side boob, before finally maybe one nipple. You know, I'm going to tease the hell out of you and make you really earn it. Maybe you won't even get to see them the first time you talk to me. You'll be so worked up that you'll end up coming in your pants before we even get there. So yeah, it's definitely about the art of the tease.
And very quickly, when you started shooting, you shot your first couple of clips. I'm sorry. Did you look at them and say, oh, this angle could be better, or this lighting could have
Oh,
been better, or?
definitely. I mean, the first time I shot clips, I shot with a old webcam in my friend's attic. We bought a bunch of like cheap white gauzy curtains and hung them up as a backdrop. And I was never like a girly type in my teens and early 20s. I was a tomboy. I never had pink or wore heels, so I went to the store and I went to the mall and I got myself my first pair of heels. I got a little pink skirt, a little white tank top. And the first time I filmed something, yeah, it was literally in my friend's attic using her webcam. I didn't even have those things at the time. I mean, this is in 2008. So like it's very different where people don't have phone cameras. There's none of
Right.
that fucking exists at this time. And it was, just some blurry 720p. And it was just me teasing, walking in heels, showing a little thigh, fully
Right.
clothed. And I put those up on Clips for Sale and they sold. They did well. A lot of what I did at first was foot fetish, and I'm really big in the foot fetish world. So just showing my feet, posing, teasing with them. I can like pick stuff up and like wiggle my toes all individually. They're very dexterous and I have very high arches. I always keep pedicures on. So people really love that. And I became very popular in the foot fetish realm right away.
When you started doing more explicit stuff, did the explicit stuff sell more than the tease, or was
I
the
know.
tease more popular?
No. To this day, the stuff that sells best for me is solo, me talking to the camera, telling people how to jerk off or how to become my slave, or just talking about what it would be like to be dominated by me. Because they all want that experience of being my submissive. They want to get as close to that feeling of being on their knees in front of me as they can. And I mean, I'll tell you, I also do in-person sessions here in LA. And whether I'm doing sessions with people personally, like my wife who's my submissive, or, cute girls at play parties that I go to, or it's a client who's approached me and gone through the vetting process and paid a deposit, come to the dungeon, the state that people go into, the subspace that people go into in my presence is very intense. I'm really good at getting people's brains to turn off. You're not thinking thoughts anymore. You're in your body. You're in this moment. You are a thing that serves my purpose. And it's a really beautiful, I mean, I'd say my very favorite thing is sessioning and playing with people. I really enjoy that in-person energy dynamic.
Sessions, do they end it with sex, or is it just very on
No,
person?
no, 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 no. No, the only people I have sex with are vetted porn stars who are established performers, who are talent tested. I'm very careful. Not only is it safer because of STIs, but they just know how to have sex good because it's their profession. I don't have sex with clients or random people that I meet. I'm extremely picky about that.
And how did you find out about femdom and all that in the first place?
Well, like I said, I met these women and they introduced me to the idea of it, and then you get on the internet and you study from there. But I mean, even before that, I was into BDSM. So the week I turned 18, I went to my very first, it's called a munch. It's a informal, usually at a cafe or a bar, hangout group meeting for local people who are kinky. So, I was hitting the ground running at 18. I knew what kink was, I knew what fetish and BDSM was, and I wanted to get involved. But it wasn't until 2 years later that I met my first pro doms. And that's when I was like, that's it. That's who I am. That's what I am. And I knew right away. So I have also taken hundreds of hours in classes on everything from the psychological to the techniques of doing things like doing rope play. I have had thousands of hours of practice doing things like rope, flogging, you name it. I'm good with all kinds. I stick needles in people, and I've taken bloodborne pathogen safety classes and CPR, um, as hardcore as any top that you see on kink.com and then some.
And for you, what is the biggest misconception about femdom?
I think the biggest misconception I see about femdom is that ultimately it still just serves men. I think that even within the femdom world, it's really easy to get caught up in giving men what they want. You're doing it because a man is willing to pay you to do it, not because you genuinely want to do it. And it's easy to fall into that trap with any form of sex work because, you're there to get money, and how do you get money? By finding out what a guy's willing to pay for. Well, yes, there is an element of that, but you also have to have an idea of what you're into. And the number of times I've introduced clients to new things in BDSM that they were not asking for, but they discovered that I like, and now magically they like it and want it too, because ultimately they really do want to please us, and guiding their interests into something that I have fun doing so that I am making money, but also having a good fucking time.
And you mentioned new stuff. How did you learn new stuff? Did you see a picture? Did someone show you?
How do we learn about new kinks and fetishes? You see something in the world and you're like, that's hot. I'm very kinky, so I guess I have purposefully gone out into the world and sought out kinks and fetishes. One of my earlier kink memories was looking up old photography, just like when the internet was kind of fucking new, and I was just looking for like pictures from like the 1800s and trying to understand what the world used to look like. And I found these pictures of old-timey clown girls with their tits out holding giant balloons. And I was like, why do they have balloons? Why do they have their boobs out and they're clowns? This is porn, I realized. This isn't just like, oh, this was a normal circus. No, this was some sort of nudie act that men would pay for to go see. And that set my brain afire. I'm like, you mean that they'll pay girls to dress up like clowns and have their boobs out? What the hell? And I do clowning now sometimes too. So for me, everything is a fetish. Everything is a kink. Everything between two or more people is a power exchange, whether people want to recognize that it is or not. And so I truly put thousands of hours into studying every kink you could probably think of. If it's consensual with adults, I'm into it.
And did you get into mainstream adult after femdom? Were they at the same time?
Yes. It wasn't until 2017 that I decided that I wanted to do hardcore porn. There's kind of a bit of a taboo for femdoms to show nudity, much less to have sex on camera, because there's supposed to be this idea that you're untouchable, right? Well, I'm still untouchable to the people who wish they could touch me. The gooner losers at home, they'll never have a fucking chance with me. But if they want to see me fucking a gorgeous Adonis man with a 12-pack and a penis the size of my arm, well, then they can watch that in my porn. I like having sex, good sex with beautiful people. So I decided that the best, safest way for me to explore doing that was through porn. So I started doing it.
Was that a natural business progression? Was that something you had always thought about? And
I didn't really plan it out ahead. One day I was just like, I want to do porn. So a few weeks later, I started reaching out to various companies, and Brian at Hookup Hotshot was like, come on through. And that was my very first pro porn scene with a man, was Hookup Hotshot. I don't do anything half-assed. I go all the way. I go hard.
well, And you shot all this material before. Is it easier for you then to start shooting hardcore because you already have a background in
I
production?
mean, it's easy for me to do these things. The shooting, whether it be BDSM production or porn, shooting is easy because I've done it for so long. At this point, I just have to not stress out too much about trying to make everything some epic art piece because that's kind of how
Right.
it's my art. So whenever I do things, I can be a real perfectionist. I show up with like a shot list, a checklist of the photos I want, the angles I want. I'm very prepared. And even when I'm shooting something like a basic kind of hookup scene with me and another partner and there's no BDSM, we're not trying to make it artsy, I'm still like want to put my all into it and make it really gorgeous.
For you, you kind of just touched on it, but what is a good clip? Is a good clip perfectly lit? Is a good clip energy? Is a good clip?
I mean, that depends on the person. What makes it good is, for me, is different than what makes it good to different viewers. Art is subjective. I'm the artist, so I am very obsessive with perfection. Everything could be better. I look at things and I'm like, I'm constantly picking it apart and thinking about how it could be better. The same as a painter looks at their own painting and they're like, I could put 500 more hours into this and it still wouldn't be good enough. Um, Everything could be better for me. But when somebody else watches it, I'll sit someone down and be like, okay, watch this for me. And
Right.
there's never a complaint. There's always people who are happy. People really love my content because it's genuine to me. Because I don't make clips I don't want to make. If somebody sends me a custom video request and I'm not into the idea, sounds boring or it's just not an act that I want to do,
Yeah.
I won't do it. I just will say no. I don't care how much money you offer me. I'm just not going to do it. And it's the same when I shoot porn. I have boundaries about what kind of scenes I will do and won't do. And if somebody offers me a scene that I'm not into, I'm just not going to do it.
And did you get any, you mentioned earlier about being unobtainable. Did you get any brushback from your fan base when you started doing hardcore?
Some people were upset because they weren't used to the idea of seeing a dom or seeing me have sex or be naked. And they're into the fetish of like this chaste woman that never has sex with men. That's fine. They can go jerk off to someone else then. I don't give a shit. And at this point, I've been doing porn for long enough that I've gained so many more fans from my porn because people will see me on some porn site. Maybe they're not into doms, but they're like, who the hell is this chick? She's fucking hot. They look me up and they find out that I'm a dom as well. And those cucks fucking love me. So
Then at this point, you're just doing boy girl, you do girl girl, you do
I
A, you
do, I mean,
do.
I always do girl girl. I'm very queer. I'm very bisexual. I'm much more picky about the men that I'll have sex with than the women. I'll have sex with any woman, shape, size, doesn't matter. Men, I like, you gotta be fit. You gotta be fit. You gotta look a certain way. If you're not fit, then I'm just not into it. I think that that's like kind of like I want my men to be like strong specimens. I'm like the
Right.
queen choosing the perfect breeding bull or something. Like I want them to look hot for me, but all women are gorgeous, fit, if they're squishy, whatever, like I'm into it.
Is that just on camera? Is that off camera?
On camera and off camera.
Is there a big difference between the two for you? Is this a character for you, or is this an
No,
extension
this
of
is
you?
me. I mean, I think that's why I can be in the industry this long. I know a lot of women who develop a persona for doing porn and then that gets hard to live in over time. This is just who I am. That's why I think I last this long. Because I'm just being me.
Okay, well, without kissing your butt and you're being authentic, other than that, why do you think you've sustained a level of popularity for so long?
I work really hard. I'm consistently online. I'm constantly producing. My production is slower than it was. I don't put out one clip a day, but two videos per week, fully produced. 4K these days. I'm shooting high-end stuff with professional grade lighting. I put out a new photo shoot every 2 to 3 weeks. I have new content on my fan club every fucking day, and I am the only one who answers my messages. No one else does that for me. I run it all, and my fans know that, and they enjoy that personal touch. I'm very real, and when you spend, $6, $7 a month to be on my fan club, you get access to actually interacting with me as an artist, seeing my content as it's being made, getting the behind the scenes, getting to have a little window into my world and even interact with me.
And to be successful on websites, platforms like OnlyFans, your fans, and somebody else's fans at this point, is it more about personality, or do you think people want to watch you have sex or femdom?
It's a mix. It's a real mix. I think that at this point, they're very much entwined for me.
At this point, do you want to continue shooting? Do you want to do more directing and producing? Do you?
All of it. All of it. I really love performing, but I also really love being involved in production at all kinds of level. If I could work with a company that wanted to put me at the helm of something larger and work with some writers and put out something really cool like a horror film or an action film that also has sex in it, that would be a dream come true for me. There are things being made out there right now, like Camp Conversion is a series that's being made that I think is just like one of the coolest and funnest and most wonderful ideas. I'm really into stuff like that. And it would be so cool to get to help produce or direct something like that. But I've never even been a feature model in a scene like that. So, for me, it's about put me in, coach. I'm ready to go. I want to be in some larger productions. I love performing. I'm good with scripts. I'm good with improv. I can do my own stunts. I just love production. I love being involved in front of or behind the camera.
Oh, you mentioned production. We started the production with your newest release. Did you have the idea for the project, the concept and everything in advance, or is
So
that
the
something you guys
concept was
worked on?
something that came up between Summer and I. We were talking, and she mentioned that she's never done a hardcore BDSM shoot, and she's always wanted to. But she's nervous about a guy being too mean or not respecting her boundaries, or her not being good about voicing them, because it's easy for submissives when they get in that subby headspace. They don't want to say
Right.
no to things, So she wanted someone that she could really trust, but who would also take her to that next level. And she knows me. She's seen my stuff. We shot some smaller scenes together. And she was like, I trust you. And I was like, okay, well then let's talk about what we want to shoot. And when we first started planning it, Nosferatu had just come out. And so initially we were talking about some sort of Nosferatu thing where I would like tempt her and it would be very psychological. But it was like, that kind of slow setting could be very difficult in a porn. So let's just jump right into it. How about you're a bride still, but you're praying to not be in this boring sex life with a boring man. And then a she-devil appears with great horns and latex. And, my latex even has like a pentagram on it. It's very hot. And then you get transported to a dungeon where you get beaten and fucked as Satan's whore. And she was like, yes. So she brought the dress. I brought my latex. And yeah, I rip the dress up and tear the dress apart while I'm fucking her. So I ruin her bride's dress and spank her on the St. Andrew's cross and vibrate her pussy. And then, the second part of the scene, she's in pole bondage. So she's being tied up to these PVC poles and metal poles, gagged. And I put an inflating butt plug inside of her and pump it and inflate her ass. And then the last scene, she's on a huge leather bed with me. And at this point, I'm not wearing the same latex. I'm just wearing like a latex underwear, red underwear, and a latex hood with my tits out. And I take this giant, huge, 10-inch dick on a stick and ream her ass while I'm bathing her in cum lube. And literally spritzing it on her in the shape of a cross, being like, bathing you in the cum of Satan. And just till she's sticky from head to toe. We're rubbing our bodies together, all sticky and lube. And then I ride her face until I come, and end scene. She's happy to be Satan's whore and is going to live forever with me as my slut. So I thought that was really fun. And we're both ex-Catholic, so it was very like exercise
Right.
some demons, as it were, for us, and allowed us to kind of play with some blasphemy themes that was true to both of us. And the whole thing was negotiated between the two of us, and the idea was between the two of us. But I fully produced it, booked the place, photographer. I had the scene list, set list. While performing, was having to stop and like check and make sure we had the right shots. I edited the entire scene, put the whole thing together, picked out the music for it, the whole thing.
From your original concept, how much of that is on screen in the finished product?
We did a really good job on this one. Sometimes it's easy when you're on the day to lose that, but I was very careful. And honestly, we got every shot that we set out to get, every scene we set out to get. I was extremely happy with this. It's a full hour of hardcore BDSM. It's really fun.
And when you edit, are you editing something you think will sell, or are you editing something? In my case, I edit too. So
Yeah.
I'm picky. I would not put my name on something I'm not happy with. So I sometimes don't worry whether people are going to think this is cool, because if it's cool to me, I just figure people will like it. Do you have that approach, or do you have a different approach to editing?
So I edited together a full 1 hour long epic feature, which is streaming on Adult Empire. But I also put together 3 clips, which if you were to put them back to back would actually only be about 40 minutes, because I cut out some of the little filler, like little extra
Right.
little moments that are like really cool to me, like you don't see panning shots of the tools on the table or
Right. Right.
little
Highlights,
moments that
inserts.
help
Right.
set the scene. I keep it just the action really, and turned it into 3 clips that get sold. And I release those at the same time on my clip sites, my fan stores. Those are selling really, really well. The streaming on Adult Empire isn't as profitable because it's far less money, and so
Right.
that there's a little tip for my viewers. If you want to see my new hardcore scenes and you want to spend a little less money, you can go on over to Adult Empire. It is definitely cheaper there. But if you want to own the clip to download and you want it from me, go to my fan site. And that's getting views, but for that, I'm hoping to see nominations. So I'm really doing a lot of PR for that right now, because I really want to see, even if we don't win, I really want to see a nomination. We worked so hard on this. The videographer is Ray Threat, who we brought in, and she's awesome and works with people like Inka Winters and others. And I'm just so proud of this. I put weeks of planning and effort into it, dozens of hours of editing. And I really want to see it get the recognition that hard work deserves, so that I can feel justified in doing that again every few months.
You finish a project like that, do you try and shoot something simple after that, or do you try and
Yeah,
one up
I'm shooting
yourself?
simple stuff right now. I had wanted to plan something really epic for this month, but the woman that I was planning to shoot with was just traveling internationally, and I'm more busy than I thought I would be this month, and then she, with the time difference and trying to recover from that, we just said, let's put this off for a few months and come back to it. But yeah, I have one script I'm working on right now with someone for something that's even more epic, and we're looking at like a 4 or 5 day shoot with like 6 actresses and like actual SFX makeup to do like
Right.
monster faces and stuff. This one will be hardcore, and I might have to do a GoFundMe because I don't want to shell out the 10 to 20K it's going to cost to produce this one.
Right. Right. You edit this, you look at it. Do you look at it from a technical perspective or an arousal perspective?
Both. Both. I mean, it's important that it's technically correct, that it follows, like that when I shot this BDSM scene at one point, early on, I pull out an anal hook and I talked to her like I was going to put it in her. And there was like 5 minutes of me teasing her with this anal hook. But later, she decided that she didn't want to do the anal hook, that it was going to be uncomfortable. So later when editing, I have to find that section where I talk about the anal hook, edit all of that out, because while that is hot, I don't use it. And it wouldn't make sense for me within the context of this to have that. So, you edit certain things out. as you need to. Yeah.
And I asked earlier, but at this point, do you feel you've established yourself in, I guess, adult material?
I mean, I feel like I'm pretty well established. I just want to see, I want to see things progress. Like when I was at DomCon, I got this guest of honor plaque that they gave me. Very nice. Especially within the femdom world, I am more than established. If you are into femdom specifically, you've almost guaranteed to have heard of me. If you are, under the age of 30, you probably cut your teeth on femdom looking at my content. If you're into feet, you've seen my feet. I've also been in dozens of porn scenes for, a dozen or so companies over time. If you are into that, then you probably have seen my content. So, yeah, I'm established, but I really just want to see, I mean, it's never enough. I want to be more successful. I want to be more seen. This is my passion. I'm never going to quit. I'm not one of those people who's going to end being in the industry. I'm going to be 70 years old and still producing and directing and doing things. Even if there reaches a point one day where I'm like, I don't want to do that acrobatic shit anymore. My legs no longer go above my head. There'll still be things that I'll do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can definitely see myself still appearing in certain features, in certain roles, even when I'm much older. Um, like if there's sexy grandma porn, I'll be in it. Like I'm never gonna stop.
And was there an award, an event, a show or something where you felt you'd established yourself, where you had arrived per se?
I think a few years back, I started getting a thing where I would get recognized randomly in the street, um, or by, I'd be at an event that wasn't an industry event, and somebody'd be like, I know your face. I'd be like, pervert. Um, that's why. And I started to realize that I have a level of, um, being known, a lack of anonymity in the world, and that it made me aware for my safety. Like I have to be aware when I'm walking around in the world. At this point, so many millions of people have seen my material just by looking at the views on things like Pornhub or XTube or whatever. So many millions of people, tens of millions of people have seen my content that I know of, much less on the ripped
Right.
site in India or wherever the fuck I might be secretly famous, even more so.
Right.
Um, so I have to be a little bit aware of that with my safety and not just walk around in the world pretending like I'm some anonymous person. Because I'm not. And so that to me was really a marker. And that was like a good 5 years ago or so I realized I was like, okay, yeah, I have to be aware.
And we've shot you a few times. You probably know my photographer, Gordon, but you seem to make a very conscious effort to make these very cool outfits and stuff when you make
Thank
appearances.
you for saying so.
Do you design something specifically for X3 as opposed to maybe AVN, or you had something, the past party you were in something really cool. I can't remember the thing off the top of my head, but is that done on
I
purpose, or is that
I
just you going in the
always
closet
dress
and
up
saying that
nice.
looks
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm very conscientious when I know I have a party coming. I always have a few party outfits. So outfits I've never worn, except maybe in a few scenes for my fans at home, but I've never like worn them like out, especially not to a red carpet. I only ever do those things one time. Um, I like the fun of it. I like fashion. I like dressing up. I like making an impact. So it's just enjoyable for me. And it's not difficult. Throughout the year, I'm constantly keeping an eye out for things. And I like to find pieces that are impactful. It could be literally, like at the XRCO Awards, I wore a vintage, like early 2000s American Apparel dress. And it's like, it's not particularly slutty. It's like an off the shoulder number
right?
with like roses on it. But like that with some like biker boots and a leather jacket, people were loving it. Other times, like I think at the past party, was I wearing the orange with the flame pasties? Anyway, I'm always, and I try to match like jewelry, nails, like I try to really make it a whole thing. Yeah, I have a good time with that. I love fashion, so thank you for noticing.
For you, what is the reality of this business versus what people think it is?
It's a lot more hard work if you want to be successful. I think that people think that OnlyFans girls, all they have to do is flash their tits and they make a bunch of money. And maybe that's true for the occasional girl who will go viral and randomly, get big for a month or two. But if you want consistent results and to be making that money and, be in the top few percent or whatever, you're working. You're working hard. You're constantly creating new content, interacting with fans, posting updates, coming up with new and innovative ways to drive traffic to your sites. You're busy all the time.
Then is there a way you've been able to separate yourself from the pack per se? Have you
Well, I
consciously
think
did
that for
that? Have
me,
you?
what makes me different is the fact that I'm so genuinely kinky and dominant. It definitely, even amongst dominant women, not to disparage anyone, there's a lot of extremely dominant and amazing doms out there. But especially within porn, most women just aren't dominant. Like, sub is what sells usually. And I turn down an exorbitant amount of scenes because they want to put me in bondage. And I just don't feel comfy in bondage. I'm not going to have a fun time. I'm going to be uncomfortable the whole time. So I'm not going to do it. And that sets me apart, but that's okay. I'd rather be apart than uncomfortable.
And when you started this, was it strictly for the money, or did you enjoy the attention?
Both. Both. I wanted money and I wanted attention, and I will not take one or the other. I will have both.
And growing up, were you always an attention-seeking person?
I've always been an attention seeker and I've always been a money maker. So, I mean, I was always a hustler. Like, my mom, when I told her what I did, she was like, well, this makes perfect sense. And she reminded me of a story of my childhood where I would go around in the summer and go to all the neighborhood kids and all the neighborhood parents, and I would get them all to give me quarters, 25 cents, a dollar. So I had a bag of money. Then when the ice cream truck came, I've already taken everyone's change. And I buy up all the ice creams and then hand them out to the kids one at a time and be like, okay, now you owe me. Now you fucking
Right,
owe me. And then next thing you know, they're building me a castle in the woods.
right.
Like, that's just how I am.
You seem to have a very good work ethic. Does that come from your mother, your father?
That comes from just being, I grew up with very little. My parents worked hard but did not have a lot. And as a result, I realized my parents are not going to be able to provide early on. I'm never going to ask them to do that. They struggle providing for themselves. And so at this point, I, not only take care of myself, but my mother, because like my father's dead. Um, and so like I've always been the person who helps take care. I took care of my siblings when they were younger, and a lot of my early money I made went into that because my parents didn't have a lot. And I was like, I just decided I'm going to work really hard. I'm going to make a lot of money and I'm not going to be poor. And I did it.
When you were growing up, did you have a know what you wanted to be when you grew up? You want to be a rocket scientist? Do you want to be a nurse? Or you want to be, I don't know, a teacher?
I wanted to be Elvira.
Really?
I wanted to be a hot, mean mommy. I wanted to be a villainess. I wanted to be Maleficent. Okay. I always wanted to be hot and mean and in control and have my own TV show. So that's, basically where we're at now.
But had you seen Elvira on a TV show and thought, well, that's
Yeah,
cool, I want to do that? Is it?
exactly. I mean, every villainess, bad bitch, mean girl in media I grew up is the one I identified with. I always identified with the woman who is a badass hottie, um, Octopussy in James Bond, like the Deadly Assassin girls. I was always into those kind of characters. I like when you see like Willow goes dark in Buffy. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
when a powerful woman is in her darkness and no longer taking shit from people, I'm like, that's me.
And before you were creating adult material, were you always taking pictures of yourself and making little clips, or is that something you just started?
That's something that I really started with adult production. I have some pictures from before that, but I mean, I was so young and taking digital photos was really difficult and couldn't afford film. Um, so yeah, I mean, it was not something that I had a lot of access to. Like I said, the very first video I ever filmed was on somebody's borrowed webcam on their borrowed computer because I literally didn't even have those things. But I started making enough money to buy my own ones right away. So now I have so many cameras. So many cameras and lighting equipment and you name it.
You mentioned you were bisexual. Were you into women before you were into guys?
Oh yeah, I've always been into women. There have been times in my life I've even considered myself a lesbian for many years because I'm so much more into women than men that sometimes I'm not into men at all. And then I'll just stop having sex with them for years. And then I'll be like, suddenly I want some dick. Um,
Right.
Sexuality is fluid and sometimes I'm lesbian, sometimes I'm bisexual, but I'm always homo-romantic. I don't ever, I've never had a relationship with a man. I've never like caught feelings for a dude. That's just not something that I really get.
And you're always comfortable walking up to a woman you consider beautiful and talking,
Yes.
initiating.
Yeah. I've always been, I mean, yeah, you get crushes sometimes where you're like, is she bisexual too? Is this going to ruin the friendship? Um, but at this point, I'd rather just have friends that are fine with me being like, I'm attracted to you and I would have sex with you if you're into it. I'm very polyamorous as well, and I don't put a lot of emotional resonance on sex. Pleasure is pleasure, and we shouldn't get caught up in what it means. It means nothing,
Right.
except that we enjoyed using each other's
Right.
bodies to exact certain physical responses, and it was pleasurable. That's all. Who cares? It's not a bad thing.
Have you ever gotten giddy over a woman?
Oh, definitely. I mean, when I met my wife, like literally when I saw her FetLife photos, I was like, who the fuck is this bitch and why is she making my tummy feel weird? Um, and I was completely head over heels with her right away. Within a year, I had proposed to her because I was like, this one's different. This one's the one for me. And we're still married 10 years on.
Uh, Personal question, choose not to answer it, but how did you know she was the one? Like the
I
one?
mean, that's just an energy thing. I don't know. I've met plenty of hot sluts in my life and I have a good time with them, but they don't make me feel the way that she makes me feel. There's something just in her psychological profile, her energy that just clicks with mine. Um, yeah, it's hard to say. True love is a real thing, and I feel super blessed in this world with so many billions of people to have somehow found her, that we were in the same city, that she reached out to me. She reached out to me as Kyaa at first because she had seen my videos online and then looked me up and she saw that I lived in the same city as her in Portland, Oregon. And she reached out to me and she's like, I'm a very poor student. I don't have any money to serve you like you deserve, but I would literally clean your house, like anything to be allowed to be useful to you. And she had all these like cute little pics of her in like little panties on FetLife. And I was like, okay, let's give her a try. So I did like a background check on her. I was very safe. You know, she's a complete stranger to me. Um, and and no one before or since who's ever contacted me as Kyaa has ever made me feel a certain way. Like that's just not a thing that I'm very unattached emotionally to people. But from the second I read her first letter to me and saw her first pictures, I was like, something different is happening here. And the first time we met, I literally felt so giddy and excited the whole time, like so nervous. Like, why do I feel like this? And then our first date, she came to my house and cleaned my house for like 6 hours. I made her scrub my floors over and over and over again. and then I fed her ice cream while she knelt in front of me. And I was fucking head over heels. I'm like, this hot little desperate to please slut makes me so giddy and excited. And I didn't do anything like sexual with her for months. I made her submit to all kinds of BDSM, getting tied up, beaten, strap-on fucked, worshiping my feet, cleaning, lots and lots and lots of cleaning, ferrying me around, doing errands for me, before I finally like let her eat me out. But I mean, I knew so early on that I wanted her to be mine forever. And one day I was just like, after we'd been dating for like a year, she'd been in service to me for like a year, I was like, I want you to be mine forever. Will you be my wife and marry? And like 6 months later, we were married. But when we got married, it wasn't a traditional marriage either. She got collared. She doesn't wear a wedding ring. I don't wear a wedding ring. She wears a collar around her neck. Ultimately, she's my wife, but she is my slave. She's my submissive.
On a non-personal level, a 10-year relationship still active in porn is an amazing thing. What's the secret to that?
She's my slave. She doesn't get to say. She doesn't get to say, and she's happy not to. We have a lot of compersion. I don't know if you know this word. It's the opposite of jealousy. It's the opposite of envy. Compersion is when you see someone that you care about having something that you don't have that gives them pleasure, and you're happy for them. You will feel pleasure through their pleasure, even if it doesn't involve you at all. So she's done porn as well. She's not currently doing porn. She's just living her princess life, which I support and want her to do for me. And she takes care of my home and takes care of me and is my little cheerleader every time I'm doing work. She's like, yeah, go daddy. So yeah, she feels a lot of compersion for me and happiness and joy. Every time I accomplish something or get to do something. So.
And growing up, when did you realize you had an impact on men or women? Because you're tall, you stick out, you've got a very cool look to you.
Yeah. I mean, I've always known that. That's something that I have always had an awareness of as long as I have memory. Since before it was appropriate for me to know that. I'll say that much. You know, you learn to work with that, and for me it was about empowering that. I knew I wanted to get into sex work when I turned 18 because I was aware that no matter what job I do, I'm going to be sexualized by people. If I work in a grocery store, the guy walking down the aisle is going to go jerk off to me later anyway. It doesn't matter what you do when you look like this or just when you're a woman at all. It doesn't even matter if you're super hot. If you exist as a woman, you are performing sexually for people. That is part of a woman's existence. And so to me, it was incredibly empowering to claim that and do sex work intentionally. And then I discovered I'm good at it and I like it. So it works out.
When you realized you had this impact and you had empowerment, were you a cock tease?
I mean, I've been a cock tease forever, for sure.
For you at this point, is this a job or a career?
I mean, this is a career. This is a lifestyle. It's everything. Do you know the Japanese concept of ikagi?
No, please tell me.
So imagine a Venn diagram, right? The concentric circles meeting in the middle in certain places. One of those circles is having something that you can do that makes you enough money to live comfortably. One of those circles is it's something that you're good at doing. Okay? One of those circles is that it has a positive impact on your community or the world in some way. And one of those things is that it is personally fulfilling to you. I live in that sweet spot right in the middle where it makes me money, I'm good at it, it's personally fulfilling, and it has a positive impact on the world. And so for me, what I do is something that, yes, it's a career, but it's also just who I am. It's my art. It's my state of being. And I don't have any desire to retire. Even though I could literally just, the content I've already produced in my life, I could sell that and live comfortably and never work another day and just hand that over to a management company would take my content and make money with it, and I would just get a paycheck and I could be fine. I could do that if I wanted to. I've made more than enough content in my life, but that's not what I want. I love this, and telling more kinky stories and sexual stories and getting to share my art as a sexual artist is my highest calling.
Of this journey for you so far up to this point in your career, is there any part of this that surprises you, shocks you, amazes you? You did it, you lived it, you survived it?
I'd say that one of the big parts of me where I was like, I lived it, I survived it, was just living through the pandemic during porn and having to adjust to a new way of thinking about doing things during the pandemic was a pretty insane thing to do. And I know a lot of people who did not continue their careers through that because that period was so difficult. But I was able to pivot from doing porn, which I was really focused on, right? Like I literally was leaving to Prague the next week to go shoot porn, but I had to cancel my trip. I had to suddenly pivot straight back to solo femdom in front of the camera and focus on that for a few years. And that was really freaking crazy. And now it's a bit safer, and I've developed, my own safety techniques so that I don't get sick on set. And I feel comfortable shooting porn again, but that was still, a pretty wild thing to live through.
And I know you said you weren't going to retire, but is there a scene or something you're holding for I guess, the latter part of your career? Some people don't do A before.
No, I mean, I've done anal, I've done gangbangs. If anything, I just want more of all of that.
And directing and producing, do you want to get to like a Ricky Greenwood level? Or you can
that's the dream. Creator. I think that's the real dream for me, is to be producing and still starring in scenes at that level. I have ideas for some really cool, really epic stuff that would be so fun to produce if I had a full production company behind me. But right now, when I produce, it's 100% coming out of my bank account. And so without backers, without a bigger company to back me, I am limited in what I can solo produce. So for me, the next thing is probably going to have to be like GoFundMe and try to get people in my community who want to see my art succeed and be bigger to help chip into that. And to just be working with people like Ricky Greenwood so that I can get on those sets and get to know those people, because I'm positive if they get to know me, they'll know I'm an awesome person to have around and they'll want me on their sets more. So
when you direct, is it easier for you to, I guess, direct other performers because you're a performer?
I mean, I think I'm better at directing and producing, especially BDSM, because of my personal experience in BDSM. That said, when I've never directed where I'm not also performing, because all the stuff that I've directed is my production. So I'm producing, directing, and starring in, which is incredibly challenging, but a fun challenge.
And the movie you did, the project we were discussing, was that a one-day shoot, a two-day shoot?
That was a one-day, full-day shoot, like 12 hours on set, pretty intense.
And do you have any idea roughly how much footage you shot? 2 hours, 3 hours?
We shot about 2.5 hours of footage in total that I edited down to an hour. But there's also, between each scene, there's breaks for the models like myself. There's wardrobe changes. A good 3 hours of that was just getting set up, arriving to the location, rearranging the furniture, setting up the lights, all of this. You have to do all the paperwork. You have to go through the set list. You have to do stills at this point, and this point throughout the production. Then you have to shoot everything. Then you have to clean up everything, pack out all the gear. It's a lot.
If you could, would you shoot hard and soft or strictly hard?
I'll always do both. There is, especially customs. I shoot a lot of customs for my fan, and 99% of those are fully clothed, very easy, foot fetish, or me talking to the camera doing basic JOYs, or popper sniffing or sissy hypno. And they are relatively easy, but even then, I put in a lot of work. I choose a really epic outfit. I get a nice background. I have pro grade lighting. I use my fully grade camera. and then I have to spend another couple of hours editing it. So I mean, I don't really do anything half-assed. I put pretty high production level into everything.
And for you, what's the craziest request you got for a custom or something you consider crazy?
I mean, that's hard to say. It really depends on the person and what they think crazy is. I've done a lot of weird and wacky stuff. I just recently did a fun assassinatrix video where like the camera's in a bathtub in a hotel room and I'm leaning over it wearing like a black outfit, basically being like, oh, I saw you at the hotel bar and you talked to me and I dosed your drink and now I'm going to harvest your organs and first I'm going to tease you and let you have one last orgasm.
What are your social media handles?
On Twitter, I'm at Goddess Kyaa, and that's GODDESSKYAA. On Instagram, it's Kyaa_Chimera, so it's KYAA_Chimera, CHIMERA. I have a free website, kyaism.com. That's KYAAISM.com, like the religion for me. And there you can find my links to everything else. I'm also on OnlyFans, Loyal Fans, Clips for Sale, mini vids. If you just look up Kyaa, KYAA, I'm the only performer with a name like that.
And when you sleep?
That's a good question.
Do your fans have a lot of impact when you shoot? Like if someone says on social media, we like your feet, would you consciously shoot more foot stuff?
I shoot what I want to shoot and what I am paid to shoot. So if somebody orders a foot fetish custom, then I will shoot that. But I'm not going to just shoot something because somebody says, oh, I wish I could see you do X, Y, and Z. I recently had someone emailing me over and over again, and I had to email them back finally and be like, you're not asking for a custom video, so unless you're going to pay me for this, stop asking for it. They wanted me to like touch my belly button a bunch. No one else is asking for that. You want it. I'm not going to just do it because you said pay me and I'll make it custom, but I'm not just doing that. I also like look at my algorithms. I see what of my videos I have been putting out sells well. I look at what other people are selling based on publicly accessible information. I look at what is getting a lot of likes, what fetishes are the most searched for on Pornhub and stuff like that. And I follow trends and I'll try different things out. I'm always trying to grow and adapt what I do to be aware of, market trends and what's popular, while also being heavily most influenced by what I'm into personally. My fans are into my kink journey, my sex life as a sex goddess. So for me, it's about the more authentic I am, the more money I make because people really respond well to that realness.
And having said that, do they prefer a specific type of material? They prefer POV, they prefer the glam, they prefer quick clips?
I'd say that my POV, my well-produced POV goddess worship and femdom scenes tend to sell better. That said, this production I just released is selling like freaking hotcakes. And so have some of the other stuff that I've released recently with other performers that are more highly produced. I produced some scenes with this model named Baxter Lynn, and he's like very short, like he comes up to here on me, but he's like muscled, like he's like a bodybuilder guy, but just short. And we did some videos together where like literally I just like made him lift and carry me, and I used him like a pony. No sex. And this video sold like freaking crazy. And I was like, people like the height difference. They like seeing a muscle guy kneeling for me. Kat is trying to make her appearances. Cool. This is Keiko. She wants to be involved. Yeah, so it just depends. I think what sells for me is constantly changing. Traditionally, it's been the POV stuff, but I'm betting that if I went through and I looked at the last year, that I'd start to see that trend changing because I am producing really cool content with other models, and that content is doing pretty well.
Is there a dream person for you to work with that you haven't yet?
Like Angela White. I know maybe that's like too obvious because she's like Angela White, but the films that she made even pre-pandemic, she was making some of the biggest, most Hollywood-esque productions, like movies, like full-on feature films that also have sex in them. And I've always been attracted to that idea. The idea of something that's like a full-on production, a real movie, but where the sex is a part of the plot and it's just, you can see it. I mean, in a Hollywood film, you want HBO, they'll show everything but the actual penetration. I mean, they'll show dicks swinging. They'll show butts, but they won't show the actual ass getting eaten or the actual penis in the vagina or the hairy bush opening up to show some beautiful lips. We don't get to see that, but it's relevant to the story. We want to see the passion between these performers. We want to see how the sex drives the plot, because sex drives the plot for all of us in our lives. I think, at least for me, sex drives my plot. So, bigger production is for me what I'm really wanting to see.
And how did you hook up with Cox Models?
So I started working with Erica from PR, the Rub PR, and she knows some of those guys, and she and I were talking, and I was basically saying, like, I've tried talking to some modeling agencies before, but because I'm such a niche performer to them as a dom, they're like, they say they don't know how to market me. And I'm like, well, when I'm performing as a sex, like, model, when I'm performing as a porn star, I'm not a dom. You're not paying me enough to do doming. That is a whole other bracket. But if you want me on as a performer, like, I charge the same rate and I have holes the same as any hot bitch. I don't understand what the trouble with this is. And I had multiple, sites tell me I'm too niche or difficult because I'm a dom. And I just think that's bullshit. And eventually I talked to the guys at Cox Model and they were like, yeah, and you're hot. You're responsible. You're on time. You have your own wardrobe. You can do your own makeup. What's not to love here? And yeah, so we just signed last month and this month, because it takes a minute to get the bookings on the books, book out a few weeks in advance. So yeah, this week I start shooting through them. And I mean, the first thing they got me is on Ricky Greenwood's set. So I'm psyched and I'm ready to give it 150% and just put it all out there.
Anything you want to say to all your fans?
To all my fans out there, if you want to see me on a specific site or working with a specific director, write to them and tell them. Send them emails, bother them on social media, help advocate for me, because they will see that and they will respond to that. And if you want to interact with me, join my fan sites. That's where you can do it. Don't tweet at me or Instagram me or get on my TikTok and bother me. Send me an email through my official email or message me on my fan site, because that's how you do it.